Welcome everyone to the Red Raider Report. I'm Zach Long with the Lubbock Avalanche-Journal. We're here at 98th and Quaker in Lubbock Campus Design. Coming here this week, they've got a whole new line of Nike merchandise as well as cold weather gear. We're getting about that time of year where you're going to need some of that stuff. We're going to be back real shortly with Adam Zubanich and Don Williams. We're going to look at Texas Tech's 43-7 win over the SMU Mustangs. Then we're going to look at this week's opponent, the UMass Minutemen, and their talented quarterback in Liam Cohen. Then we're going to look at the Big 12 Conference, all the games last week, and this week's games as well. We're going to be right back with Adam and Don. You're on the Red Raider Report. Don Williams joins us now, and Don, we're going to talk about Texas Tech's 43-7 win over the SMU Mustangs. And afterwards, to say Mike Leach was a happy camper might be a bit of a misstatement, considering he blatantly called out his quarterback and wide receivers.
Yeah, I think Mike got kind of irritated. Clearly he got irritated by having his wide receivers drop not one, not two, not three, not four, not five, not six, not seven, 8 footballs. And it's one of those situations, circumstances in which it's not like you can just pull aside one player who's having a bad game, because it was just about everybody. Right. I mean, Mike Crabtree had 3, but Eric Morris had 1, Edward Britton dropped 1, Rashad Hawk dropped 1, De'Tron Lewis dropped 1. It was just a kind of pox or plague that spread through the receiving corps, and I think it was something that one of Tech's offensive lineman Stephen Hamby said this week. He said you didn't really think about it during the game, and then when you watch the videotape film afterwards, you realize, yeah, there were too many drop balls.
Right.
And so you'll see why Mike Leach just sort of sat over there steaming on the sideline in what, for the most part, was a pretty anticlimactic game in the second half. But to Mike Leach, it was just what he saw was one drop pass after another after another.
Right, and Coach Leach's comments aside, will we see any changes? Will there be any real changes this Saturday against UMass, as a result of performances Saturday?
When you have something like that happen, it's fairly common to hear Mike say, we'll make changes if necessary, and we'll do roll guys in the sand pit if need be, and right. That sort of thing. And there are occasions in which his threats are valid. I think this one right now rings kind of a little bit hollow for a couple of reasons. One, if you're going to make changes, you're going to have to change out a whole bunch of spots, because right. there are a lot of guys who are dropping passes. It wasn't just one guy. And then the other thing is the receiving corps right now. You have a lot of young talent, but you don't have a whole bunch of second and third team guys who are really pushing hard for playing time. I mean, who are you going to replace some of the people with? Lyle Leong, well, he's in the doghouse right now. He's playing scout team. Rashad Hawk, he's going to be good in the future, but he dropped a pass too. Tremaine Swindle is has been the most impressive backup guy that this team's had so far. He had some big third down catches at Nevada, but right. Swindle plays the wide receiver position. He's behind De'Tron Lewis. You're not going to sit De'Tron Lewis. No. He's the next most talented receiver that this team has, kind of the next big gun kind of in the pipeline after Crabtree. So I think this is a circumstance in which Mike said, Mike hinted about changes could be made, but I just don't really see it happening.
And you're not going to yank the Heisman Trophy candidate quarterback.
That would
be a little bit of a surprise.
I thought you were going to say Heisman Trophy candidate flanker who dropped 3 passes.
Right.
Now, if he sits Mike Crabtree, that would really be making a statement, I think. But I doubt that's going to happen, since he also caught 3 touchdown passes.
Right, nor Harold. Harold's not going to be,
Even though Taylor Potts looked good in the fourth quarter.
That he did. On a positive note with the offense, you have to look at the running backs, Don, and Baron Batch especially looked maybe as good as he's looked in his Texas Tech career against SMU on Saturday. Yeah,
of course he had missed, approximately 20 games in the second half of the season in 2006, and then last year redshirting. Continues to be amazing just that what he went through with the broken ankle and that staph infection that just would not turn loose in his ankle for so long, and to have had 7 surgical procedures, and then to be able to bounce back and show not just they can play football again, but that he can still retain a whole bunch of his speed is a pretty incredible thing. He winds up with 10 carries, 98 yards, a touchdown, breaks a 43-yard run that was really well blocked. Shannon Woods, 13 carries, 86 yards. Both of those guys got involved in the passing game as well. One note of caution here, though, and that's that SMU was really emptying out the box, and they came in to defend the air raid.
Yeah, selling out against
They
pass.
came in to defend the air raid offense. The important thing was when that happens, Graham Harrell then didn't try to force a whole bunch of passes. A lot of those runs, I think, were probably plays that he checked to and said, okay, there are only 6 guys there, only 3 linemen, 6 guys in the box. We're going to run the football, and they did. Again, they're able to do that successfully against SMU when there's not that many players in the box. Now, if other teams defend them differently, then it'll be interesting to see if they can have the same level of success running the football.
And defensively for Texas Tech, Ruffin McNeil has to be pretty pleased with their effort on Saturday, especially interceptions, 5 of them total, and Charbonnet breaks a school record with 3 of them in the game.
Oh, yeah. Daniel Charbonnet, he really set a tone early, with the interception on the very first play. He said that in watching SMU's first 2 game videos that they had shown the tendency to throw a deep ball on the first play of the game. So he said purposely stayed deep, kind of expecting that, and it paid off. And then, of course, he gets the interception on the second series. A real impressive play there because he was alert enough to
dive.
It's the old tip drill thing.
Right.
Ball goes off the receiver's hand, you dive and get it, and then his third interception was just as big because that was in a stage, at a circumstance where if SMU is going to do something and actually get back in the game, they had an opportunity to do so there in the third quarter when they're in Tech territory, and he picks that one off. Of course, a couple other guys get in the mix. Jamar Wall with an interception, Darcel McBath with an interception. I think big for Wall to get a pick because he's kind of been taking a little bit of criticism the first couple of weeks because he's been beaten for a couple of touchdown passes.
Yeah, the 2 long ones. And not to beat a dead horse, Don, but, we have to bring it up. The kicking woes a little bit again. Had some issues. Has there been any mention this week around Red Raider camp that you might see someone different on Saturday?
Well, as we tape this, we're talking to you before Tech really starts its game prep practices, so it remains to be seen. However, during his early week news conference on Monday, Mike Leach did not give any indication at all that he is considering making a change at the kicker spot. In fact, just the opposite. He continues to praise Donnie Corona for being a very hard worker and remaining on an even keel and not blowing up emotionally.
Right.
When he's struggled, as he has, obviously, for the first 3 games. I think they're kind of treating him, like some baseball teams treat a young pitcher, that, okay, he's going to have some rough nights, but want him to keep going back out there and getting back on the horse, so to speak, after he's been thrown. And again, based on what we heard Mike Leach say at the beginning of this week, he gave no signal that he wants to change kickers, and pretty much just the opposite, in fact.
Right, and you talk about at this point in the season, Don, Texas Tech, defensively they're making strides. Offensively, everybody's still waiting for that huge breakout performance. But we stand here right now going into UMass on Saturday, and it's the last time, other than the off week before Big 12 play starts. Where do you really see this team standing right now?
I think maybe the most disconcerting thing, I think, is Graham Harrell again still, even though he was more on target. He had 400 yards passing. He had 5 TDs. He's still, something about him, he still seems a little bit not quite the same quarterback that we expected to see, that you expected to see based on his being a starter for the last couple of years. I think, key for him to kind of get back in the groove, and that's probably I think that's probably the most important thing for this team. I think they're continuing to take steps forward and make strides defensively. Saturday night was a good opportunity for them because even though you're playing a team that had a redshirt freshman quarterback and you're much better than they were talent-wise, we got to see them kind of expand what they do defensively, and they used a whole bunch of substitution packages. They were only in their base defense. I charted it no more than 50% of the time, if that. You saw a whole bunch of the time they're jet front pass rushers with a dime package behind that. So you saw Daniel Charbonnet at the nickel spot and Jordy Rowland at the dime spot. And then there were other times when you saw more than you have this year. You saw their 30 front, which is, three down linemen, and then behind that, they would use their joker pass rusher, so you'd see Daniel Howard kind of lined up in what looked like a linebacker position. He came up the middle from that spot and got got one of his quarterback sacks that way.
Caused Bo Levi Mitchell a lot of problems.
Yeah, caused Bo Levi Mitchell a lot of problems, and I thought it seemed like they were pretty well coordinated because they were able to get all their substitution packages on and off, it seemed like, without really any confusion.
Right, and you talked about, I think the tough question right now that we have to ask, and I think in a lot of the national media's mind, they're asking the same question. Texas Tech moves up to the number 10 ranking in the USA Today coaches poll. Is this team the number 10 ranked football squad in America?
I was kind of just going down the top 20, top 25. And a couple of observations there. They may not be the 10th best. They're probably not the 10th best team in America right now, at least not the way they're playing. Maybe more like somewhere in the 14, 15, 16 range. But I think you can also turn it around and say, if you look at the national rankings and look across the country, who are 10 teams who are undeniably better than Tech? Your impressive teams. Southern Cal's been very impressive so far. Florida, clearly Missouri, clearly LSU. Texas, Alabama's been very impressive. And I'd throw in there another team that's a little bit further down in the rankings. Penn State's had 3 big victories so far, including about a 45-13 win over Oregon State. So there are about 10 teams that have played more impressive football than Texas Tech, but then there's also a bunch of other teams who are good, who have good reputations, but they've struggled much the same way that Tech has. Virginia Tech and West Virginia both lost to Eastern Carolina. Ohio State is a 35-3 loser against Southern Cal. Georgia won only 14-7. What's up with Auburn?
3-2 over Mississippi
State.
That's not good. Their defense is outstanding, but their offense is having the same old struggles.
Wisconsin only a 13-10 winner against Fresno, a little farther down in the top 20. Illinois beats Louisiana Lafayette 20-17, and then you also have point I'm making. There's a whole bunch of teams, kind of like Tech, who have good reputations, who are in the rankings, who are in the top 20, top 25, who don't have 3 convincing victories right now.
And ultimately we're going to find out more once Big 12 play starts. And Saturday night, Texas Tech gets the UMass Minutemen, and Adam and I are going to be right back, and we're going to break down the Minutemen for you here on the Red Raider Report.